What's up, everyone? Welcome to Eternal Spectacle, the new show from the It's a Muslim channel. I'm here with Lotus Tao, my buddy Quay here. You might have seen us from the spiel, you might have seen us on the stream. Now you get to see us talk about a different team, different topic altogether. We're going to talk about our favorite stories out there. Tonight we'll talk about, in particular, that new Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania movie that just came out this weekend. I thought the movie was great. I really enjoyed it. I know that, Rotten Tomatoes right now, it's sitting at a subpar score. But Quay, what'd you think about the movie, man?
Before we got anything from Phase 4, Phase 5, I personally was looking forward to the films Multiverse of Madness um, and Quantumania, specifically for what they could do and what they were going to showcase for this new phase. I knew where we were going in this new phase. I actually wrote on my blog just different theories um, about where we would go, things we could see, different villains of the future. Um, Kang was one of the um, biggest things that I thought were going to pop up. I knew he was a big with the multiverse. I knew it was a big deal with time travel. We saw that in Endgame. So to see him come to life, especially through Jonathan Majors, who I especially really like as an actor, seen him first through Lovecraft Country, and just to kind of see his evolution and different things. I still need to see the Harder They Fall. Really want to see that. And the Five Bloods, R.I.P. Chadwick, because he actually got to play with Chadwick, which is kind of crazy. Acted with him in a movie. But overall, I didn't necessarily agree with the criticism that some of the critics and fans were giving. Uh, I've heard things such as plagues from the things that Phase 4 did, where it was rushed, it didn't really lead to anything. It was just kind of things happening, different nitpicks here and there. Like I said, I didn't really see any of that stuff. The film was very creative. We got to see the quantum realm in a way that we never saw before. Different characters. Like I said, the introduction of Kang was amazing. I know some people are split on MODOK, but I personally liked them using Darren Cross to be MODOK. Some of the disinterest in the MODOK characters coming from what we got in the Hulu series, and also seeing George Tarleton in the Marvel Avengers video game. And that was a very good. Both of those were very good depictions in different ways, and I feel like Darren Cross's MODOK was somewhat played off for comedy. People didn't really like that and thought his MODOK was kind of a waste. But personally, like I said, I love the film. If I had one gripe about the film, I'm not the biggest fan of the Catherine Newton character who played the Cassie. I really wanted them to go with Emily Furman, who we saw in Endgame as the older Cassie. Personally, nothing against the actress. I just feel like she kind of has a demeanor in a role that she has a demeanor, and you see that in some of her roles where it fits more of that. I'm not gonna say she's necessarily typecasted, but if you see some of her filmography, there's definitely a correlation where she has more of a rough around the edges type of girl. Um, I don't think Cassie was ever that girl. Even you didn't even really see uh, her have any disdain or have any resentment to Scott being away for 5 years or even his jail time. He has always actively tried to be in her life to make up for that. That was always his thing. I felt like for her to have different jabs about how he was not there and how she was like very self-sufficient and she didn't. I thought it was just, I thought it was kind of put in there to one add to the plot of the subplot for Scott. His journey of wanting to be there for Cassie and make up for that time. Also to kind of fit in with actresses kind of typecasted role. But like I said, that's kind of my only gripe really with the film. How did you feel? What were some of your high points of the film?
I think that for me, the highest point of the film has to be the visuals. I think the CGI was a lot better than most of like Phase 4, Phase 5, and some folks might complain about it, but I don't know how real you can make the quantum realm to look like. I thought that it looked great. I felt like I was watching like a Star Wars prequel film, like Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. It was really vibrant colors. All the monsters are really cool. The freedom fighter characters, there's not that much development, but it's enough where we care about them throughout the film, and it had that lightheartedness that the other Ant-Man films had, and it didn't go as extreme as maybe a Ragnarok or Love and Thunder made it. I think the comedy is as strong as it's ever been. I think this is the best Ant-Man film out of the trilogy. And I loved the first Ant-Man film. I think it was a pleasant surprise when it dropped. I think a lot of people were skeptical. And that second film is good, but it's so forgettable just because it was squeezed in there right before Endgame and before that resolution that we got. And I think that a lot of us just watched that.
Infinity War.
Right, we watched that second Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man the Wasp, just to get to that end credit scene. In terms of low points, you talked about Cassie. I think that Evangeline Lilly's character, Wasp, was really underutilized. I think she was in a lot of the action scenes as when it was in the center of it, but she was just there to help Paul Rudd, Scott Lang character kind of get through, and that was it. It felt like the female lead in this movie was actually Janet.
Yeah, I agree.
And it
The story
wasn't.
really surrounded her.
Yeah, and I think and I really liked some of the banter with, Bill Murray's character with Lord, what was his name, Lord Kryler, and
Yeah, Tyler.
and he was just being such a dog at the table, and Hank was just ready to throw hands, and it was just hilarious. I liked it a lot. But yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, we got a chance to see her. This is kind of like her movie. She almost feels like the one of the main characters, if not she's at the center of all this, and she's the one that connects everything back to, Kang the Conqueror.
100%. And it's funny because I actually made that comment after watching the film. I was like, it's an Ant-Man and the Wasp film, but it's weird because, like you said, because of the underutilization of Hope, it actually feels more like Ant-Man is Scott and what the Wasp is actually Janet in this scenario because of their importance in this film. Like I said, not saying, as you mentioned,
I mean, she's OG
Hope has her
Wasp.
moments, but she's the OG Wasp, and this was definitely more of her movie. I felt like, while maybe not quite as powerful and as strong, I felt as though this is something you can compare to Wakanda Forever with Angela Bassett, not necessarily being the main character of the film, but she held such weight in that film. You at times felt like, I mean, at moments she carried it, and I feel like that argument is kind of valid for Janet. I feel like a lot of the high points in the film came from the acting of Janet and the acting of Jonathan Majors. So, Jonathan Majors King. So, I totally agree. She did an astounding job. Astounding job. You think of that ending? Spoilers for those, make sure you've seen this movie. But you think Kang is dead? I have a theory about that one. But do you think he's dead?
I don't think he's dead. I mean, he basically collapsed into that power cell, which means that he's probably stuck in a probability storm. And the question is, how is he going to get out? Is he ever going to get out, or is he going to just be stuck there until some sort of event triggers his escape? Or has he already escaped? and he's already infiltrated that Council of King that we saw there, because we don't know how much time has elapsed. And again, for him, time doesn't really matter, so
True.
it doesn't matter how long it takes him. He might live thousands or millions of years inside that probability storm, and it might only be a couple of weeks for us. But we did see the three major Kang. But I guess my question is like, do you think Kang the Conqueror is like Prime Kang and is like the original Kang, or is like He Who Remains and Loki's Kang the one that is the original one, or is it one of the the three that we saw at the end credit scene? Well, what do you think about that? Do you think he's like he's gonna infiltrate his way back into the Council of King? Because I think one of the main issues with this movie is it does kind of set up Kang as this big bad, but then the Ant family kind of take him down. So then the question is like, how do you increase his power level for an Avengers movie, or was the Avengers level threat that they just barely got away with beating? But I think that's kind of the main issue that I think a lot of the criticism I saw in the movie was that they felt like, well, Kang was great, but if Ant-Man and the Wasp and the gang can get rid of him, like why do we need the Avengers in here? And then we see there's millions of different Kangs throughout the different timelines ever since Sylvie and Loki killed He Who Remains and allowed the timelines to diverge again. But what do you think? What's your theory here about Kang? Is he dead? Did he survive? Does it really matter if he's dead or not moving forward?
I think, I think in the grand scheme, the way that this Kang was hyped up, I do think it matters if he is dead or not. But I don't think he's dead, and I know they make somewhat of a clarification at the end, or try to make it, try to clarify that he is dead when we do see the Council of Kang, primarily Ramatut, Mortis, and what I believe is definitely Scarlet Centurion. I think they're not going to call him the Scarlet Centurion to. I hate when they do this, is to not cause confusion with like that and Scarlet Witch and everything. So I feel like he's just going to be called Centurion. But I feel as though there's that bit of doubt, and we're supposed to have that bit of doubt that Scott has at the end of the film, where he says, "Oh yeah, it's fine." I think. I mean, I feel as though we're supposed to also feel that way. Kind of like how you said, I believe Kang did not die. Like pretty much got sucked into the probability storm.
So where does this movie sit then in terms of like the entire like MCU ranking? Then Quantumania. Do you really have Quantumania in your top 10 here?
I would probably have Quantumania. If it's in my top 10, it would probably be right at 10. If I were to have it in my top 10, it would be definitely number 10. I think I don't think it's better than Shang-Chi. I would probably put it right at the level of Shang-Chi. So that's why I said I definitely think I would put this in my top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice movie. I think for me, it's probably outside the top 10. I really like that first Guardians movie. I think I like it better than Quantumania. And then for me, I think I think it's about on the same level as Ragnarok for me. I think it's same level as Ragnarok.
Yeah. That's why I said I teeter.
And I like Far From Home and Homecoming more. There's a bit of bias there in the character. I love Kang Conqueror a lot. I think one of the better villains that we've gotten so far. But we only had him for maybe like an hour 20. We had him right at the beginning of the movie, and then we don't see him till, which I like. I think it was important to build some of the other story for the movie.
And I think you still felt his presence because of the fact that everyone talked about him. They didn't even name him by name. I was like, oh, the Conqueror, oh, him, he. It was like it added this extra like oh, yeah, he's
Yeah.
terrible. You
Yeah,
know,
he is him, or he
that he's
really
hell.
is him. Shout out to Jonathan Majors, did such a good job in that character, and I have to watch that Harder They Fall movie too. I know Steve's been really recommending that. I know he saw that; he was a big fan of that. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, the movie is great. So I think I'm really excited to see where Phase 5 goes.